The stars had never seemed so beautiful to Commander Vexira as she stood on the bridge of her flagship. Her four eyes scanned the viewport, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace fade into the darkness of normal space. Behind her ship, 200 vessels of the Zenthari Empire emerged like predators entering new hunting grounds. They had done this hundreds of times before, and each time ended the same way: victory, submission, expansion. The Zenthari were not cruel by nature, or so Vexira believed. They simply understood the order of the universe. Strong species ruled, weak species served. It was natural. It was right. For 300 years, her people had brought civilization to the primitive corners of space. 4 different alien races now lived under Zenthari protection, working together in harmony. Well, mostly harmony. There were always a few who resisted at first, but they learned. "Commander, we have entered the system," her tactical officer announced. His voice carried the calm confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "Initial scans are complete. 9 planets. The third one from the star shows signs of life." Vexira moved closer to the main display. A blue and green world appeared on the screen, covered in swirling white clouds. It was beautiful. She felt a moment of appreciation for the diversity of the universe. So many worlds, so many forms of life, all waiting to join the great empire. "What level of development?" she asked. "Primitive, Commander. Radio signals. Some satellite technology. They have a few small stations in orbit and one on their moon. No faster-than-light capability detected. No energy shields. Their weapons appear to be chemical-based projectiles and early energy systems." Vexira allowed herself a small smile. Another easy addition to the empire. She had hoped for more of a challenge, but the universe rarely provided such entertainment. "Scan for population centers. Prepare the standard integration message." Across the vast distance between the Zenthari fleet and Earth, sensors worked tirelessly. They mapped cities and military installations. They recorded communications and analyzed technology. To the aliens, everything they saw confirmed their assumptions. These humans were children playing with toys, unaware that adults had arrived. On Earth's primary orbital defense station, Captain Andrew Logan sat in his command chair, watching his own sensors with growing concern. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many simulations and training exercises. For 20 years he had prepared for this moment. Humanity had been listening to the stars, searching for signs of life, and planning for the day when someone would find them first. "Sir, we have multiple contacts entering the system," his sensor operator said. The young woman's hands shook slightly as she worked her console. 200 ships. Configuration unknown. They're holding position near the outer planets. Andrew felt his heart rate increase, but his voice remained steady. "Sound the alert. Get me a direct line to Earth Command, and someone wake up the President." Within minutes, every military installation on Earth and throughout the solar system went to high alert. Pilots ran to their fighters. Soldiers checked their weapons. Scientists scrambled to analyze every scrap of data about the alien vessels. And in a secure bunker beneath the Atlantic Ocean, President Helen Morris listened to the reports with a calm expression that hid her racing thoughts. "They're not approaching?" she asked. "Not yet, ma'am," Admiral Kevin Blake replied. The admiral was a broad-shouldered man with dark skin and sharp eyes. He stood before a massive display showing the entire solar system. "They're scanning us, taking our measure." "Then we wait," Helen said. "Captain Logan, are you ready to receive their message?" Andrew's voice came through the speakers. "Yes, ma'am. Our translation systems are active. When they send something, we'll decode it." They didn't have to wait long. The Zenthari message arrived in multiple formats, designed to be understood by any species capable of radio communication. The translation software worked quickly, converting alien language into human words. What appeared on the screens made every person in Earth Command clench their fists in anger. The message was simple and arrogant. The Zenthari Empire claimed this system by right of discovery. All inhabitants were required to submit to integration within 10 standard days. Resistance would be met with force. Cooperation would be rewarded with protection and technology. It was not a request. It was a demand. Commander Vexira waited for the response she had received so many times before. Fear, confusion, desperate attempts at negotiation. She had seen it all. Some species tried to bargain. Others attacked immediately with their primitive weapons. A few simply surrendered. The end result was always the same. but the human response surprised her. Xanthari vessel, this is Captain Andrew Logan of Earth Defense Command. Your message has been received and understood. Our response is as follows. Leave our system peacefully and we will consider this an unfortunate misunderstanding. Remain or advance and you will face consequences. You have been warned. Vexira read the message 3 times. Then she began to laugh. Her officers joined in, the sound echoing through the bridge. Consequences? These primitives threaten consequences? It was absurd. It was adorable in its foolishness. They have courage, she admitted. I respect that. But courage without power is just noise. Send the standard response. We will advance to their homeworld in 2 days. If they wish to negotiate surrender terms, we will listen. If they wish to fight, we will accept their sacrifice. Andrew received the alien's response and closed his eyes for a moment. He had hoped it wouldn't come to this. Humanity had dreamed of meeting other species as friends, as partners in exploring the universe. But those dreams had always been balanced with nightmares of invasion and conquest. Earth had prepared for both possibilities. Admiral Blake, Andrew said quietly. They're not leaving. I know, the Admiral replied. Activate Protocol Sentinel. Contact the Valiant, the Defiant, and the Guardian. Tell them to move to positions Alpha through Charlie. And someone send word to the shipyards. Which shipyards, sir? Admiral Blake stared at the display showing the Xanthari fleet. 200 ships. More than enough to destroy everything humanity had built in space. More than enough to bombard Earth into submission. The aliens probably thought they had already won. All of them, Blake said. It's time to wake up the Harbinger. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something massive began to move. Docking clamps that had held it in place for 5 years started to release. Power systems that had been dormant suddenly surged to life. And deep inside the vessel, Captain Ryan Walsh opened his eyes and smiled. The waiting was finally over. 2 days passed like a slow-motion nightmare for humanity. President Helen Morris barely slept, spending her hours in the command bunker coordinating with military leaders across the globe. Every news channel showed the same images, the alien fleet hanging in space like a sword waiting to fall. People gathered in churches, temples, and mosques. They held their children close. They wondered if these would be their last days. But not everyone was afraid. In military bases around the world, soldiers prepared with grim determination. Pilots checked their fighters one more time. Tank crews loaded ammunition. Infantry units reviewed their orders. If the aliens wanted Earth, they would have to bleed for it. Humanity had fought wars for thousands of years. They knew how to die fighting. Commander Vexira watched the countdown timer on her display. The humans had been given their chance. Now time was running out. She had sent 3 more messages, each one slightly more generous than the last. The Empire was willing to let the humans keep their government structure. They could maintain their culture. They would even be given technology to cure diseases and extend their lives. All they had to do was accept Xanthari authority. Each message received the same response. Leave or face war. They're insane, her tactical officer muttered. Do they not understand what we could do to them? One bombing run could turn their cities to ash. They understand, Vexira said. They simply don't care. I've seen this before. Pride makes species stupid. They think their homeworld advantage will save them. They think we'll grow tired and leave. They're wrong, but they'll learn that soon enough. On the second day, President Helen Morris made a personal broadcast to the Xanthari fleet. The aliens received her message and displayed her image on their screens. She was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and steady eyes. She wore a simple suit, not a military uniform. She looked like someone's grandmother, not a warrior queen. Commander Vexira, Helen began. I am President Helen Morris of the United Earth Government. I speak for all of humanity. We have received your messages. We understand your position, but you must understand ours. Earth is not a prize to be claimed. We are not children who need your protection. We are a free people, and we will remain free. I am asking you, one leader to another, to leave our system in peace. We do not want war. We do not want death. But we will accept both before we accept slavery. Vexira felt something strange as she watched the human leader. Was it respect? Pity? She wasn't sure. The woman seemed sincere, she seemed intelligent, but she was also doomed. Bagheera had heard similar speeches from dozens of species. They all ended the same way. "Send my response," Bagheera ordered. "Tell her that the Empire admires her courage but cannot accept her terms. We will advance to her homeworld tomorrow. If she surrenders then, we will be merciful. If she resists, we will do what we must." In the asteroid belt, Admiral Kevin Blake stood on the bridge of the UNS Valiant. The ship was humanity's pride before the Harbinger, a vessel that had taken 10 years to build. It was 500 meters long, armed with railguns and missile batteries. Its crew of 800 had trained for this moment. Beside the Valiant, 2 sister ships waited, the Defiant under Captain Lisa Morgan and the Guardian under Captain Daniel Cruz. Together they represented Earth's visible military power. "Admiral," Lisa's voice came through the comm system. "My crew is ready. Just give the word." "Patience," Kevin replied. "Let them come closer. Let them think they've won." "And if they decide to just start shooting from range?" Daniel asked. "They could bombard Earth from out here. We couldn't stop all the missiles." "They won't," Kevin said with certainty. "They want Earth intact. They want the people alive to serve them. They'll come close, make a show of force, and expect surrender. That's when we hit them." But Kevin's predictions were wrong. The Zenthari did something unexpected. Commander Vexira decided to send a message that words alone could not convey. She ordered her fleet to advance to Mars, where humanity had established 3 mining colonies. The installations were small, home to only a few hundred people each. They were civilian operations, not military targets. That's exactly why Vexira chose them. "Target the largest colony," she ordered. "One shot. Make it clean." Her weapons officer hesitated. "Commander, there are civilians there. Families." "I know," Vexira said coldly. "That's the point. The humans need to understand that this is real. One colony dies so that billions can live. It's a fair trade." The Zenthari battlecruiser fired a single plasma torpedo. It streaked across the void, its blue glow visible against the black of space. The mining colony on Mars never had a chance. The weapon hit the main habitat dome and detonated. 317 people died instantly: miners, engineers, scientists, and 23 children. They were vaporized in a flash of superheated gas. On Earth, humanity watched in horror. News broadcasts showed the explosion. They showed the debris. They showed everything. President Helen Morris stood before the cameras with tears in her eyes and rage in her voice. "The Zenthari have murdered our people," she said. "They killed civilians. They killed children. They did this to frighten us, to break our will. But they have made a terrible mistake. They have shown us exactly who they are, and now we will show them who we are." Admiral Kevin Blake received his orders 60 seconds later. 2 words that changed everything. Release Harbinger. The alien fleet began to advance toward Earth, confident and casual. Commander Vexira felt satisfied with her decision. The humans would see reason now. The death of one colony would save millions. It was regrettable but necessary. "Commander," her sensor officer said, "I'm detecting movement in the asteroid belt. Multiple human ships are emerging." "The defense fleet," Vexira said. 3 ships, primitive but brave. Target them when they enter range. Quick kills. Show mercy where we can." "There's something else, Commander. A large contact. Very large. It was hidden among the asteroids. Our sensors didn't detect it until now." Vexira moved to the sensor display. Her eyes widened as she saw the readings. The contact was massive, larger than anything the humans should have been capable of building. Its power signature was impossible. The readings had to be wrong. "What is that?" she whispered. Deep in space, docking clamps released with explosive force. The camouflage netting that had hidden the vessel for 5 years fell away into the void. Power cores that could light a city roared to full capacity. Weapon systems that had been cold and dormant suddenly blazed with energy. And on the bridge, Captain Ryan Walsh sat in his command chair and spoke calmly into his comm system. "All stations report ready, Captain," Commander Patricia Hayes said from the weapons console. "Navigation is set. Lieutenant Frank Miller added. We can be at Earth in 6 hours. Ryan looked at the display showing the Zenthari fleet. 200 ships. They had killed his people. They had murdered children. They thought humanity was weak. They thought humans were primitives. They were about to learn the truth. Take us out, Ryan ordered. Full burn. I want every alien ship to see us coming. And someone send a message to Commander Vexira. Tell her we're going to show her what happens when you threaten Earth. The UNS Harbinger emerged from the asteroid field like a leviathan rising from the deep. 3 kilometers of steel, composite armor, and human engineering excellence. The ship dwarfed anything else in the solar system. Its hull was dark gray, covered in angular plates that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports lined its surface like the scales of a dragon, and at its heart a fusion reactor hummed with more power than the entire Zenthari fleet combined. Captain Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. He was a man of average height with brown hair starting to gray at the temples. His face showed the lines of someone who had spent years preparing for a moment he hoped would never come. Around him, his crew worked with practiced efficiency. They had trained in secret for 5 years, running simulations and drills while the rest of humanity debated whether building such a monster was necessary. Now everyone knew the answer. All systems green across the board, Commander Patricia Hayes reported. She was a sharp-eyed woman with red hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her console showed weapon status and every indicator glowed ready. Railguns charged. Missile batteries loaded. Point defense grid active. We're ready for war, Captain. How are the engines, Frank? Ryan asked. Lieutenant Frank Miller checked his navigation console. Operating at 105% efficiency. We can maintain this speed for 3 days before we need to cool down. The aliens won't be able to keep up with us if we need to maneuver. Ryan nodded. The Harbinger was fast for its size, faster than it had any right to be. Human engineers had spent decades studying theoretical physics, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. They had built this ship not just to fight but to win, to dominate, to ensure that humanity would never be helpless against whatever waited in the stars. Open a channel to Admiral Blake, Ryan ordered. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Valiant buzzed with activity. Captain Walsh, good to see you awake. How does she handle? Like a dream, sir. We'll be at Earth in 6 hours. What are your orders? The Zenthari are advancing. They're moving slowly, probably expecting us to scatter or run. I want you to position the Harbinger between them and Earth. Show them what they're facing. If they're smart, they'll run. If they're not... Kevin Blake's expression hardened. Then we end this. Understood, Admiral. Harbinger out. Ryan turned to his crew. You heard the man. Take us home. And someone get me a target analysis of that alien fleet. I want to know which ships are their flagships, which ones have the best weapons, and which ones will break first when the shooting starts. Across the void, Commander Vexira stared at her sensor displays in disbelief. The human ship was impossible. Its size alone defied logic. How had these primitives built something so massive? Where did they get the resources? The technology? Her tactical officer was frantically scanning the vessel, trying to understand what they were facing. Commander, the power readings. They're off the scale. That ship has more energy output than our entire fleet. Its reactor must be enormous. What about weapons? Vexira demanded. What are we looking at? Unknown, Commander. I'm detecting multiple weapon systems, but the configuration is nothing like our database. They're not using plasma or particle beams. The energy signatures are different. I think they're using kinetic weapons. Railguns, maybe. Accelerating solid projectiles to extreme velocities. Vexira felt a chill run down her spine. Kinetic weapons were considered primitive by Zenthari standards. Energy shields could deflect them easily. But the readings she was seeing suggested projectiles moving at velocities that would punch through any shield like paper. And if that ship could fire multiple rounds... Reduce our speed, she ordered. Hold position. I need time to think. Commander, if we stop now, we'll look weak. The other ships will question your leadership. I don't care how it looks, Vexira snapped. That ship could destroy half my fleet before we get in weapons range. I need to understand what we're facing before I send my people to die. The Zenthari fleet slowed to a stop, hovering in space halfway between Mars and Earth. 200 ships, each one capable of destroying a city. Each one crewed by warriors who had never known defeat. And now they waited, watching the human dreadnought approach with a mix of fear and fascination. On Earth, humanity held its breath. Every screen showed the same image, the Harbinger moving to intercept the alien fleet. News reporters struggled to find words. Some called it humanity's last hope. Others called it a symbol of human defiance. A few called it what it really was, a weapon designed to kill on a scale that made nuclear bombs look gentle. President Helen Morris watched from the command bunker. Beside her stood generals and admirals, scientists and politicians. They had debated building the Harbinger for years. The cost had been enormous. The resources could have fed millions, cured diseases, explored the solar system peacefully. But Helen had made the choice to build it anyway, and now she would learn if that choice had been right. Madam President, one of her advisors said quietly, "If this goes wrong, if the Harbinger fails, we have nothing else. The aliens will destroy us, I know," Helen replied. "But if we had done nothing, they would have destroyed us anyway. At least this way we fight. At least this way we show the universe that humanity doesn't bow." The Harbinger reached its position and came to a stop. The massive ship hung in space between Earth and the alien fleet like a castle wall made of steel and fire. Its weapon ports opened, revealing the dark barrels of railguns that could fire projectiles at 10% the speed of light. Its missile bays stood ready, loaded with warheads that used focused nuclear explosions to drive armor-piercing penetrators. And deep inside the ship, its main cannon began to charge, drawing power from the fusion reactor until the entire vessel hummed with barely contained energy. Captain Ryan Walsh opened a channel to the Xanthari fleet. His face appeared on Commander Vexira's screen, and she saw something in his eyes that made her blood run cold. Not anger, not fear, just cold, calculated determination. "Commander Vexira," Ryan said calmly, "I am Captain Ryan Walsh of the United Earth Navy ship Harbinger. You have entered our system without permission. You have issued demands we cannot accept, and you have murdered our people. 317 civilians died on Mars because you wanted to send a message. Now I'm going to send one back." "Captain Walsh," Vexira said, trying to keep her voice steady, "your ship is impressive, truly, but you are one vessel against 200. If you fire on us, we will destroy you. Surrender now, and I promise your crew will be treated well." Ryan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Commander, you don't understand. The Harbinger isn't here to fight your fleet. It's here to demonstrate why you should leave. Watch carefully, and learn what humanity has been building while you conquered primitives." He closed the channel before Vexira could respond. She turned to her tactical officer. "What's he doing?" "The ship is rotating, Commander. It's turning its main weapon toward—" "Oh no, toward what?" Vexira demanded. "Toward Deimos, the small moon of Mars. Commander, if that ship fires its main weapon at a celestial body—" "It's just posturing," Vexira said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Even if they could destroy a moon, it would take multiple shots. Sustained bombardment. They're trying to frighten us." On the Harbinger's bridge, Lieutenant Sarah Bennett watched her targeting display with steady hands. She was the weapons officer, a woman who had trained for 8 years to fire the most powerful weapon humanity had ever built. The main railgun was a monster, a magnetic acceleration tube that ran the entire length of the ship. It could fire a solid tungsten projectile weighing 10 tons at velocities that approached relativistic speeds. "Target locked," Sarah reported. "Deimos center mass. Firing solution calculated and confirmed." Ryan took a deep breath. "Fire." The Harbinger's main railgun fired with a sound that echoed through the ship's hull like thunder. Every crew member felt the vibration in their bones as magnetic coils discharged in sequence, accelerating the 10-ton tungsten projectile down the 3-kilometer barrel. In less than a second, the round reached 30,000 kilometers per second, 10% of light speed, a velocity so extreme that the air molecules around the barrel ionized, creating a brief flash of blue-white light. The projectile crossed the distance to Deimos in minutes. Commander Vexira watched on her sensors, still not believing what she was seeing. The round was just a chunk of metal. Dense, yes. Fast, certainly. But it was still just a projectile. How much damage could it really do to a moon that was 15 kilometers across? She was about to learn a terrible lesson in physics. When the tungsten round hit Deimos, it was carrying kinetic energy equivalent to 100 nuclear weapons. The impact happened faster than human or alien eyes could process. The projectile didn't just penetrate the moon's surface. It punched through the entire body in a fraction of a second, transferring its massive energy into the surrounding rock. The moon didn't crack or break apart slowly. It simply exploded. One moment, Deimos existed. The next, it was a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated gas and debris. Chunks of rock the size of buildings flew outward in every direction, some of them still glowing white-hot from the impact. The smaller pieces vaporized completely, adding to the glowing cloud. The entire event took less than 5 seconds from impact to total destruction. On the Zenthari flagship, every alarm began to scream at once. Vexira's tactical officer stumbled backward from his console, his face showing pure terror. Around the bridge, crew members who had served for decades in the military sat frozen in shock. They had seen worlds bombed from orbit. They had witnessed fleet battles and planetary defenses. But they had never seen anything like this. Impossible, Vexira whispered. That was one shot. One projectile, how? Her science officer, an elderly alien who had studied physics for 50 years, spoke with a shaking voice. Commander, the energy transfer was perfect. The round was moving so fast that when it hit, it converted its kinetic energy into heat and force instantly. The moon couldn't absorb or dissipate that much energy. It just came apart. How many shots would they need to do that to one of our ships? The science officer checked his calculations, then looked at Vexira with wide eyes. Based on our shield strength and hull composition? One shot, Commander. Maybe less if they hit the right spot. That weapon could cut through our entire fleet like a blade through water. Across the Zenthari fleet, panic began to spread. Ship captains sent messages to the flagship demanding orders. Crews looked at the glowing debris field where Deimos used to be and imagined themselves as the next target. Some ships began to edge backward, their commanders making the decision to retreat without waiting for permission. Captain Ryan Walsh watched the destruction of Deimos with satisfaction, but no joy. He hadn't wanted to fire that weapon. He had hoped the threat alone would be enough. But the aliens needed to see proof. They needed to understand that humanity wasn't bluffing. All Zenthari ships, this is Captain Walsh. He broadcast on all frequencies. What you just witnessed was a demonstration. That moon was already dead. No one lived there. No one died, but you saw what happened to solid rock. Now imagine what that weapon would do to your ships. Imagine your hulls splitting open. Your crews dying in the void. Your fleet scattered and broken. He paused, letting his words sink in. I don't want that. None of us want that. We didn't build the Harbinger to conquer. We built it to defend. To ensure that no one could threaten Earth without paying a price too high to accept. You came to our home. You demanded our surrender. You killed our people. And now you've seen what we can do. So I'm going to give you the same choice you gave us. Leave peacefully or face the consequences. Commander Vexira felt her pride warring with her survival instinct. She was a military commander. She had never retreated from an inferior force. But was humanity inferior? That ship proved otherwise. That weapon changed everything. If the humans had one such vessel, they might have more. If they could build the Harbinger in secret, what else might they be hiding? Commander, we need to withdraw, her second-in-command said urgently. That ship could destroy the entire fleet. We can't fight it. If we run, the Empire will see us as cowards, Vexira argued. Our reputation will be destroyed. If we stay, we'll be destroyed, literally. Commander, please. Look at the sensor readings. That human ship hasn't even activated all its weapons yet. The railgun was just one system. It has dozens more, missiles, point defense, energy weapons we can't identify. We're outmatched. Vexira made her decision. Signal the fleet. We're withdrawing to the outer system, but we're not leaving entirely. Not yet. Commander, the humans told us to leave the system, and I'm buying time to think, Vexira snapped. Maybe they only have one ship like that. Maybe it takes time to recharge. Maybe we can outmaneuver it. I need options before I crawl back to the Empire in disgrace. The Zenthari fleet began to retreat, but slowly and in formation. They weren't running in panic, but they were clearly backing down from the confrontation. Admiral Kevin Blake watched from the Valiant and frowned. They're not leaving the system, he said. They're regrouping. They might try something stupid. Should we pursue? Captain Lisa Morgan asked over the comm. No, let them think. Let them argue among themselves. But keep all ships on high alert. Ryan, are you ready if they come back? On the Harbinger, Captain Walsh checked his status boards. The main railgun would need 2 hours to cool down before it could fire again safely. But he had 40 other weapon systems that were ready to go. We're ready, Admiral. But I have a suggestion. I'm listening. Let me select 5 of their ships. Not destroy them, just disable them. Knock out their engines and weapons. Then we board them and take prisoners. We send those prisoners back to their empire with a message. Show them we're not monsters, just prepared. Admiral Blake considered this. You want to show mercy? I want to show intelligence, Ryan replied. If we just kill them all, the next fleet that comes will be ready for war. But if we capture some, treat them well and send them home with proof of our strength, that's a better message. It says we're strong enough to be merciful, that we're civilized, not barbaric. Do it, Kevin decided. But be careful. Wounded animals are dangerous, Ryan turned to Commander Patricia Hayes. Pick 5 targets. Smaller ships, not the flagship. I want precision strikes. Disable them, don't destroy them. Can you do that? Patricia smiled grimly. Captain, I can put a railgun round through a target the size of a coffee cup from 1,000 kilometers away. Disabling a few ships will be easy. The Harbinger's smaller railguns, weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat, rotated to target 5 Zenthari vessels spread across the fleet. These weren't the devastating main gun. These were precision weapons, firing tungsten darts the size of a person's fist at velocities that were still terrifying but controllable. Targets locked, Patricia reported. Firing in 3, 2, 1. 5 shots fired almost simultaneously. 5 darts crossed the void in seconds. Each one hit exactly where Patricia aimed, punching through shield generators and engine cores with surgical precision. The targeted Zenthari ships went dark, their power dying, their propulsion failing. They were helpless, drifting in space. Excellent shooting, Ryan said. Lieutenant Miller, take us closer. Nice and slow. I don't want to spook them. And someone prep the boarding teams. Tell Captain Linda Foster she's up. Linda Foster was already suiting up when she got the call. She was a former Marine, a woman with short black hair and a collection of scars that told stories of training accidents and hard lessons learned. Her boarding team consisted of 60 soldiers, all volunteers, all trained for zero-gravity combat. Listen up, Linda told her team as they checked their weapons and armor. We're boarding alien ships. We don't know their internal layout. We don't know how they'll react. We're going in prepared for a fight, but our orders are to take prisoners, not kill everyone. Disable their weapons, secure the crew, and get them into the transport pods. Questions? What if they don't surrender? One of her soldiers asked. Linda's expression hardened. Then we do what we have to. But remember, these are people too. Scared people who just watch their moon get destroyed. Give them a chance to be smart. Don't shoot unless they shoot first. The boarding operation took 3 hours. Each disabled Zenthari ship contained between 50 and 200 crew members. Most surrendered immediately when the armored humans breached their airlocks. A few tried to fight and were quickly subdued with non-lethal weapons. By the time the operation was complete, Linda's team had captured 843 alien prisoners without killing a single one. Commander Vexira watched helplessly as her ships were boarded. She wanted to order the fleet to attack, to rescue their captured comrades, but she knew it would be suicide. The Harbinger sat between her fleet and the disabled ships like a guard dog protecting its prize. Commander, we're being hailed, her communications officer said. It's the humans. Admiral Blake wants to speak with you. Admiral Kevin Blake's face appeared on Commander Vexira's screen. She had expected to see anger or hatred in his eyes. Instead, she saw something far more unsettling: calm professionalism. The human looked at her the way a teacher might look at a student who had failed an important test. Commander Vexira, Kevin said, your people are safe. We've taken them as prisoners, but they're receiving medical care and proper food. We're not torturing them. We're not executing them. In 3 days, we're going to send them back to you in their own ships, fully repaired. And you're going to take them home. Vexira felt confusion mixing with her shame. You're releasing them? Why? Because we're not monsters, Kevin replied. You came here expecting primitives. You expected easy victory. You were wrong about us, and that's not entirely your fault. You couldn't have known, but now you do know. And you're going to go back to your empire and tell them what you learned here. Tell them about Earth. Tell them about the Harbinger. Tell them that humans want peace, but we're prepared for war. They won't believe me, Vexira said quietly. The Empire has conquered hundreds of worlds. They'll think I'm weak. They'll say I ran from an inferior species. Then show them the recordings. Show them what happened to your moon. Show them the Harbinger's specifications. We're going to give you everything. Full sensor data, weapon capabilities, ship design. We want your empire to know exactly what they'll face if they come back, because if they do come back with hostile intent, we won't be merciful again." Kevin paused, his expression softening slightly. "Commander, I know this is hard for you. You spent your life believing the Zenthari were the strongest, that you were bringing civilization to the galaxy. But the universe is bigger than your empire. There are species out here you haven't met yet. Some might be friendly. Some might be worse than anything you've imagined. We're offering you something valuable, knowledge. Learn from this mistake. Take it home. Make your empire better." The transmission ended. Vexira sat in her command chair, feeling the weight of the last few days crushing down on her. She had lost, not just a battle, but her entire worldview had been shattered. Everything she thought she knew about power and civilization had been proven wrong by these humans. 3 days later, as promised, the captured Zenthari ships were released. The human repair crews had fixed their engines and systems better than they had been before. The prisoners were returned healthy and unharmed. Many of them seemed confused by the treatment they had received. The humans had been professional, almost kind. They had shared food, provided medical care, and even attempted friendly conversation through translation devices. One captured officer, a young Zenthari named Kixon, had spent hours talking with Captain Linda Foster. She had shown him pictures of Earth, explained human history, and answered his questions about the Harbinger's construction. When he returned to his ship, he was carrying something that surprised him: respect for the enemy. Commander Vexira led her battered fleet out of the solar system. Behind her, the Harbinger watched silently, its weapon port still open, a reminder of what could have happened. As the Zenthari ships jumped to hyperspace, Vexira began composing her report to the Empire. It would be the hardest thing she had ever written. Back on Earth, humanity celebrated, not with violence or arrogance, but with relief. They had survived first contact. They had shown the galaxy that Earth was not helpless. President Helen Morris addressed the world from the steps of the United Nations building, her words broadcast across every channel. "Today we proved something important," Helen said. "We proved that humanity can stand together when threatened. We built the Harbinger not because we wanted war, but because we refused to be victims. And when the moment came, we showed both strength and mercy. We didn't destroy the Zenthari. We taught them. This is who we are. This is who we will always be." But Helen's celebration was tempered by caution. In a private meeting with her military leaders, she addressed the reality of their situation. "The Zenthari will go home. They'll tell their empire about us. Word will spread across the galaxy. Some species will want to be our friends. Others might see us as a threat. We need to be ready for both." Admiral Kevin Blake nodded. "We're already working on it, Madam President. The Harbinger performed perfectly, but it's not enough. Captain Walsh has recommended building more ships like it. Bigger ships. Better weapons, and how many more?" Helen asked. 12. Maybe more. We should establish shipyards beyond Jupiter, somewhere harder to detect. We should develop better sensors, faster engines, and weapons that make the railgun look gentle. We got lucky this time. The Zenthari were used to fighting primitives. The next species might not be so easy to impress. Helen closed her eyes for a moment. "Do it, but I want something else too. I want us to reach out to other species, find potential allies, share technology with those who need protection, build a coalition. Earth shouldn't stand alone." 6 months later, Captain Nicole Sanders stood on an alien space station orbiting a world called Veresh. She was humanity's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council, a loose organization of species who traded and shared information. Nicole was a diplomat by training, a woman who spoke 6 human languages and was learning 3 alien ones. She wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's flag on her shoulder. The council chamber was vast, filled with representatives from 40 different species. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Nicole struggled to understand how they perceived the world. They all stared at her with curiosity and caution. The human species was infamous now. Word of the Zenthari's defeat had spread fast. "Ambassador Sanders," the council speaker said. The speaker was a floating jellyfish-like creature who communicated through color changes that were translated by machines. "Earth has requested membership in our council. This is unusual. Most species join after decades of peaceful contact. You have been known to us for less than a year, and your first meeting with another species ended in violence." Nicole stood calmly. "The violence was not our choice. The Xanthari demanded our surrender. They killed our civilians. We defended ourselves, but we didn't destroy them. We could have. The Harbinger could have wiped out their entire fleet. Instead, we disabled 5 ships, captured their crews, treated them well, and sent them home. We showed both strength and mercy. Your ship frightens many of us, another council member said. This one looked like a tree with multiple mouths on its trunk. The Harbinger is a weapon of terrible power. How do we know you won't use it against us? Because we're not conquerors, Nicole replied. We built the Harbinger to protect ourselves, not to invade others. Earth wants to trade. We want to learn. We want to explore the galaxy and make friends. But we also want to be left alone if we choose. We're offering the Council something valuable: protection. If any member species is threatened by aggressive powers, Earth will help. We'll share our technology. We'll stand together against bullies. The Council debated for hours. Some species argued that humanity was too dangerous to trust. Others pointed out that the galaxy needed a strong species willing to stand up to empires like the Xanthari. Eventually, they took a vote. Earth was accepted into the Galactic Council by a narrow margin. Commander Vexira, meanwhile, had become an unlikely advocate for humanity. After returning to the Xanthari Empire and delivering her report, she had expected disgrace. Instead, the Empire's leaders saw opportunity. If humanity could build such weapons, perhaps they could be allies instead of enemies. Vexira was sent back to Earth as an ambassador, carrying proposals for trade and cooperation. Her first meeting with Admiral Kevin Blake was awkward. They met in a conference room on Earth's moon, both sitting across a table with translators nearby. Vexira looked at the man who had defeated her and felt a mix of respect and embarrassment. Admiral Blake, she began, I want to apologize for what happened on Mars. The deaths of your civilians. That was my decision. My mistake. I thought showing force would make you surrender. I was wrong. Kevin studied her carefully. Yes, you were. But you're here now. That takes courage. What does your empire want? Peace, Vexira said simply. And knowledge. We've spent centuries conquering primitives. We thought we were strong. You showed us we're not. We want to learn from you. Maybe we can teach you things too. Our medical technology is advanced. Our understanding of alien biology could help you. We can share maps of the galaxy, warn you about dangerous regions. In exchange for what? For your defensive technology, not the weapons. We understand you won't share those. But your shields, your armor materials, your sensors, things that will help us defend ourselves against threats we didn't know existed. Kevin considered this. I'll take it to the president. But understand something, Commander. Earth doesn't forget. You killed our people. We're willing to work with you, but trust will take time. You'll have to prove yourselves. I understand, Vexira said. And we will. You have my word. 1 year after first contact, Captain Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, now joined by his sister ship, the UNS Leviathan. The Leviathan was even larger, 4 kilometers long, with weapons that made the Harbinger's arsenal look small. It was commanded by Captain Peter Griffin, a quiet man who had studied warfare for 30 years and hoped he